The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaru Productions. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tokucast Reviews, episode number 148. That is Marcus, I am Jacob, and today we are going to discuss Avataro Sentai Donbrothers.
Yes.
Which just ended.
Last week we are... I think this is going to be the thing going forward. We'll do it for Geeks as well. When that ends, don't know when that'll end appropriate, but hopefully our schedule will end up working out for it. Otherwise, I will move things around. But yeah, Donbrothers.
Mm-hmm. And like all of our reviews, this will be a spoiler review. And, so if you haven't caught up yet, this is a show that has just ended. So catch up on the show first if you're interested, and then come back and check us out then.
Yep. As of now, when this video is up, the first episode of King Oja is out. Mm. So, hope you're having fun with that. We'll be doing that first impressions in a few weeks.
Yeah, we will.
All right.
Start with the opening.
Yes. I will say this because I've said it before.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem I have is that, and that's it.
At the end?
At the end, in the middle.
Okay.
I think that's the only part that's a little
After
bit
the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah,
okay, I gotcha.
It's the only part of the song I have. Otherwise, I like it.
I think it's a good song.
I really like when they did the, what was it? The press release last year for this show. Mm-hmm. And the cast was on, just on the stage doing the dance for the opening with the singer there and everything. It was great.
That's cool.
God, that whole, I missed that press conference. That press conference, like the King Oja one just didn't compare because it was pre-recorded. The one from last year was just like, well, we're insane. And this is the show.
Was this the first in-person one after COVID?
Yes, I guess. Well, COVID was still happening because I remember.
I know it's still happening, but after the peak of it in 2020, 2021.
Yes, because I remember during this press conference they still had the barriers in between the people. Mm-hmm. This time they were just sitting a little bit farther apart with no barriers, at least during the pre-recorded one.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So, not going to do a play-by-play on this one.
I was going to ask, do we want to do this one like we did the Loop Hat review, where we just talk about the characters?
Yes.
And we just go character by character and then talk about moments and things and the way that all connected to the plot?
Especially because, in this case, the characters are really the plot of the show.
The characters, this is an extremely character-focused show.
Yeah.
I would argue maybe even more so than Loop Hat.
I'd say it is.
I'd say more so than Loop Hat, because with Loop Hat, at least you have the police against the Phantom Thieves, and you have the crime syndicate. There is still some traditional Sentai-ness, for want of a better phrase, going on in the background and the foreground of that show. And in this one, it's just this show is unabashedly just goofy, weird nonsense, and I'm here for it, for the most part.
Inoue wrote this show almost exactly like I expected him to write this show.
And how was that?
Where it's just so character-driven. At least when he does the Sentai, I mean, yes, he really only has done Jetman as a full show. Mm-hmm. But the way that show is done, and then 31 years later we get this, it's just I can see pretty much everything that he did, bringing it over into this show proper. Mm. And I loved it. This show, I'm just going to talk about the show as a whole as a little bit before
Go ahead,
we get to the characters.
Sure.
Might end up becoming, it's up there with Deca for me.
Oh, wow, okay. So where does Deca Ranger rank? Is that your favorite?
One.
That's your number one Sentai, okay. So this might be up there fighting for the number one spot.
Yeah.
Okay, this does not take my number one. It's not for Mikira Major is my number one, but it's not up there, but top 5 maybe. I think this show almost feels purposefully a little bit frustratingly unfinished in a few plot areas. But the stuff in it that's good is so good that it winds up balancing out, I think.
That's pretty much how I felt at the end of it. I didn't mind a lot of stuff getting wrapped up pretty quickly.
Either wrapped up quickly, or some things are just unanswered, not at all.
To be fair, there is one really big unanswered question, and we have a whole team-up movie coming out later on this year.
I wonder what question that is. I'm seriously, which one is it?
We'll see.
It could be anything.
Could be a multitude of things. Maybe we should go to the cafe, figure it out.
I wouldn't mind visiting that cafe. Great service there.
Yeah. He's always prepared.
He's always prepared, even to do emergency surgery.
Yes, or bring someone back to life.
That too. As long as you have enough points.
Okay.
So shall we start with our Red Ranger?
Nope.
Oh, we're not. We're going to start with Oni's sister.
Yep, we're going to start with Oni's sister, who was the first character we actually ended up following.
Our POV character in the first episode. And
yeah.
One of the things I love about this show is equal billing.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone gets equal billing.
Pretty much.
It is not...
Except Saru. I think Saru gets the least.
I don't feel like he does. I don't feel like he does because of how intrinsically he's tied in with Haruka.
Yeah.
Haruka and everyone else, but also just like the nature of his character. He's just, that flighty artiste who will, go wherever the wind takes him. That sort of thing.
But in terms of Haruka, I love that she is our POV character for actually a good portion of the show.
Yeah.
It is... Oh, God. Because this show is really not traditional...
Very much so.
And Lord knows, I love it, and that's why I'm so worried going into King Oger.
We're worried about going into King Oger, because I think there were some comments on our Rubercast.
Yeah.
Where people were like, this feels like very much a return to form, and I don't want that after Donbrothers. Donbrothers was such a breath of fresh air. I don't really want to go back to this again.
I think after both Zenkai and Donbros, it's just like...
Because they said, correct me if I'm wrong, they said they had like a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
For like an overarching stories and...
Well, I don't know if it's an overarching story, but just like how to change things up. Which, in all honesty, might have been shown with this year's sale numbers being quite high.
Oh, nice.
In comparison to the past few years. To be fair, COVID. But
yes.
Even still, I think...
And also, to be fair, we haven't seen King Oger yet.
Yeah.
So who knows what they're going to do with it.
Yeah. I think the thing that sort of tweaked people off a little bit was the red there. But
we'll see.
Haruka, the manga, the plagiarism,
That first episode does a great job of just setting her up as a sympathetic character, as a character who can make you laugh, as a character who you feel for, and just like you're immediately latched on.
Yeah.
Because everything seems to be going right for her.
And
it's like she's won the manga award, her thing's selling great, she has a supportive boyfriend, everything seems to be going great for her, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the glasses show up, we're fighting monsters, we're pulling a They Live. I'm pretty sure I made that comparison in the first impressions, but yeah, she puts the glasses on and then she can see the Cerebrans.
The Anoni, yeah.
Those guys. She can see the little henchman dudes disguised as regular people. And then all of a sudden, plagiarism accusations, her boyfriend leaves her, and...
To be fair, good.
He's kind of a schmuck. Running theme.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And then she is thrust into the middle of this conflict that she doesn't know much about, being led by someone who seems to be a little bit of a psychopath, maybe? Certainly one who is just having himself a grand old time killing the monsters.
Especially because she wanted to get out of this so quickly, so she goes up to Sonoza, Kiji brother.
She goes up to every character and is like, "Are you Don Momotaro? I pledge my fealty to you." And I think it's Sonoi who does like the Michael Jackson whip kick to get her out of the way. It's him, right?
Yeah, after they're in costume,
Yeah.
And then Don Momotaro...
No, he's still in his civilian clothes.
No, that happens. It's the first time it happens is in costume, and I think that's after she meets Don Momotaro the first time, because he saves her.
Yeah, in the first episode, from the one Hitotsuki.
From before she actually ends up getting the glasses or anything, it's the taxi driver.
Yeah,
and the Hitotsuki is about to attack her, and then
Sonoi shows up. He transforms and kills it.
Yeah, and then that's when everything starts happening to her. Over the course of this show, I loved her growth out of wanting to get out of things so quickly after actually getting out of the Donbrothers and subjecting somebody else to it. And getting...
Someone who seems to be taking it in much better stride than she does.
Yeah. But she realizes, maybe I messed up. Maybe I shouldn't subject someone else to something bad going in their life just to get something good going in mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that for her. I think that's, although it happened sort of early, I think that's pretty good character growth for her. And just seeing her grow over the course of the show, running over Don Murasame with the car. With Gamel from O's as her driving instructor.
Is that who that was? Yep. Okay.
I love that. I think that's such a standout episode because she is a terrible driver.
She's very, very bad. Yes.
And he was like, I will give you your license just to get out of here. I'll subject everybody else.
Which in the end, she offers everyone to go for a drive, and they're like, sun's out, gotta go.
No. Thanks, though. They just all run.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Especially at the end of the show, or really, after she really gets in with Sonoza.
Yeah.
Their relationship is
wonderful.
So good. He just wants her to make good mangas so he can read it.
He wants her to make good manga, and because I love how they tie the three lead Cerebrins to our main characters. To our main characters.
Three of them, anyway.
Yeah, the three of them. But they pick and choose exactly the right ones.
Mm-hmm.
And with Sonoza, he wants to learn all about human emotions.
Mm-hmm.
He's like walking up to random people and just like laughing or crying, and it's like, what makes you tick? I want to know. And through art that Haruka is creating, it's like, I'm learning more about emotions. This isn't making me feel anything. Rip, do it again.
Yeah.
And it's great. And there's a point that I want to make here, and that's if they had changed any one of these actors, the show wouldn't have worked.
No.
Everyone is so perfectly cast.
Yeah.
Everyone is perfectly cast.
Yeah.
And everyone's great.
You really are.
They're all great.
I don't want to get into the Cerebrins yet. Because there is such a thing with them. And that's why I sort of want to talk about Don Momotaro last. Because I want to lead into some more from him.
Sounds good. Do we have anything else we want to say about Haruka? Or?
Just her at the very end of the show, especially the last episode, when it's her drawing all of the manga and everything.
Yeah, she's telling her story with the Donbrothers.
Which she learned from her future self from that one episode.
Yeah.
I love the craziness. Just
turns out the plagiarism accusations, it was her from the future who took a vacation to the past to be a manga artist.
Yeah.
And she wound up like ripping herself off accidentally.
Yeah. From an alternate future.
And it was great.
It was such a fun episode.
The end of the episode where she's like, oh, well, at least everything's fine again. Wait, my plagiarism accusations, this doesn't solve them. She has a lot of great fourth wall breaks.
She does.
Like internal monologues and takes to the camera that she does.
She gets she is the internal monologue for the show. She's really the POV because we hear her thoughts more than pretty much anybody else.
Yes.
And God, do I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so different. It's so different. Oh, it's different. Different! Let's talk about Shinichi. Sadahara.
Sorry, brother.
The reason I end up saying, I think, because the reason I say that he did not have as much as everybody else, because he didn't have a specific story like everybody else did. Mm-hmm. Legitimately, everybody else on the team had a story. His was just, I'm a little bit stuck up, but it got a little bit better at the end of it, especially after he got rejected by Sononi. Several times.
Yeah.
And Sonoza just didn't like him. And I think it's because of that, because he saw him as fake.
I mean, as I said, he's a flighty artiste. Yes. He loves to intellectualize and say haikus. I mean, the first time we meet him, he's having, his tea at the cafe.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, unfortunately, I do not have any money to pay for this, so perhaps you will accept payment with a haiku instead. And just the reaction of Haruka, boss, can we? And he doesn't even look up from his book. He's just like, that's fine. That's fine, of course. And so he does, but, he's got a haiku for every situation. He meets himself from the future, and it's like, wait a minute, you have money?
Yeah.
And you're saying tankas instead.
Yes, he's doing tankas instead of haikus. Which is 75755 in the stanza.
Yeah.
I love it. I love how he hates himself.
Yep. He's successful and handsome and well dressed and
has money.
And has money? How is this possible? But it's great. And
Yeah.
I love that because I think it's him and Haruka are the first ones to know that they are
Yeah, the
Donbrothers, the first ones to learn each other's identities.
Yeah, because they do, like, they pretty much all end up meeting Taro in that first episode, or first 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And they meet each other.
In his delivery job.
Yeah, in his delivery job, which is perfect for him. But yeah, Sara, I love him and everybody else's story.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I really would change about the show, I wish he would have gotten a little bit more on his own. He had that one with the previous summer brother.
Mm-hmm.
But
and the Ramen Yakuza.
The
Ramen Yakuza, baby.
Great.
Where's that side story?
But yeah, I think he's the one who, really enough, is probably the most grounded, even in his own asshole-ish way in some cases. But I think that actually ends up making him a center of this team in a way that Taro wasn't. Because Taro is unfortunately insane half of the time. So
he's off in his own little world.
Yes,
supremely. I think not having his own story works perfectly fine for Sara's character because he truly is like a Lancer's Lancer.
Yeah,
he is the the secondary character of secondary characters who just so perfectly is able to weave in and out of different stories throughout the course of the plot, and I think it works great.
Yeah.
He kind of reminded me of Yusuke from Persona 5 if he were more tolerable.
I like Yusuke.
I like Yusuke too, but I would strangle him within a week if I ever met him in real life.
It's true. I would too.
Pretentious bastard.
We sort of got to talk about these two together.
I take it we're talking about Inu brother and Kiji brother.
Yep.
Inuzuka and Kijino.
Yes.
Did you like how their names were reflected in their Sentai form?
I think the only one who wasn't is Haruka.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how they explained it at the end of the show.
Unless it's like, if you write it this character this way, then it kind of means this.
Might have been that. I love how they explained it in the show. Is like, why am I the only one who's sort of out of the norm from the story that this is based on? It's just like, we're making our own story here, going forward and making bonds in that way.
I mean, at the end of the Momotaro story, because he beats them all up, and then it's like, we promised to be good, and it's like, okay, I formed a bond with you now. You made a promise to me, so you can look at it that way.
Yeah.
But here we are, and so Inuzuka and Kijino.
I love how
this was a fascinating one.
In the background of this story, apparently his wife and his girlfriend were not supposed to be the same person.
Oh, really?
But then Inoue was like, what if?
But what if?
And I think the producers
just hear me out.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds insane.
I think you may have something there.
I'm alright with that. Let's go.
Inoue, you're a genius, I tell you.
But yeah, their story together, man. That was pretty much, that's the thread that you follow the most in this show once it gets established.
It's one of them, sure, yeah.
I feel like this is the most compelling one, though. Simply because Kijino just...
The ultimate simp.
The ultimate simp until the end where he realizes that, okay, I can do this without somebody. I have to, I can save other people to help save myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he does. We'll talk about the ending in a second of their story. But, man, oh man, I love this. Especially with Kijino turning into a Hitotsuki, three times? Over the course of this show?
I mean, Saru has that great line, well, what happens twice can happen thrice.
Yep.
And, yes, because the first time is Miho gets hit by a motorcycle.
Or almost does.
Almost gets hit by a motorcycle by Inuzuka, as a matter of fact, but he doesn't find that out. But then it's like he turns into the Car Ranger monster. Traffic safety! And then Sonoi turns the three of them into Hitotsuki, Oni, in the cafe episode.
Yeah.
And then later, it's just, I am without Miho, I am desperate, I need her, monster. And then they have to beat him up again.
He has some issues throughout this show.
He has many issues.
I do love...
The biggest one is a giant glowing neon sign that says Miho and attachment issues.
Yeah.
And,
especially when he gets with a doll.
That was one thing that was abandoned very quickly.
That because he got her back.
Yeah, the next episode. Yeah. That episode was also like, because he comes home let's backtrack a little bit. Yeah. So Kijino is an office worker, salaryman. He works for a consultation company. he comes across as a man who has gone through life feeling like inferior, left out, weak, a herbivore man, as some might say.
Beta male.
That too. But, one day goes in for a haircut, meets a lovely beautician named Miho. They hit it off, and one thing leads to another. They fall in love, they get married.
This all happens over the course of a year, mind you.
Yes, over the course of a year. So they're newlyweds, they're living in their apartment, and he's just like having the time of his life, because no matter how hard it gets at work, no matter how much he fails or how much he struggles, at the end of the day, he gets to go home and see Miho's smiling face, and everything is just right with the world.
Hunky-dory.
Mm-hmm. And then we find out...
Well, he meets Inuzuka.
Yes.
Who is a fugitive on the run for most of this show.
For mostly undisclosed reasons at first.
Yeah. We end up finding out later on that his girlfriend, Natsumi, was taken from him basically by the Juto, who decided they needed hosts.
The bestials.
Yes. After the origami ends up going into his mouth, but it doesn't end up making it in there, but it makes it into Miho's mouth. And she gets a Juto spawn from her.
And that Juto is Miho.
Yes.
And it's the
crane.
The crane, and the crane they say in the story is the storyteller.
Yeah.
So Miho is Natsumi's dream that she's having while she is in the Juto forest.
Yeah.
And that's where our big point of conflict comes in, because once Inuzuka sees Miho, he realizes, like, oh, that's her.
Yeah.
That's Natsumi. But she doesn't remember him.
For a little bit.
For a little bit, until that one episode where he comes over to their house and he has dinner with them. And as he's leaving, he says something. There's like a little exchange. They say their goodbyes. And then Miho runs after him.
Yeah.
And Kijino is left a little dumbstruck, like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, because he like went into the kitchen and came out and they weren't there.
No, they were both standing at the door. Yeah, they're both standing at the door, and then she runs after him, and then he follows them. And Miho catches up to Inuzuka and like just wraps her arms around him, and because she remembers that she was Natsumi.
Or the Juto remembers.
The Juto remembers that she was Natsumi, and Kijino finds them.
Kijino has some serious mental breaks in
Yes.
this show. That's
Multiple.
one of them.
Yes.
The other one is when he ends up tricking Inuzuka to meet him at a different cafe and gets him arrested.
Which happens not long after this.
Yeah, and that smile on his face at the end of that episode, the actor played this so unimaginably well.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Hirofumi Suzuki, that's off to you.
Yeah, he also has that other portion earlier after he turns into, or like right before he turns
into... This is the clip
monster.
that... You're going to talk about the clip that you showed me like early on when this was running where he gets that one guy killed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in his their apartment and like closes the window and everything just becomes dark and the look on his face. It's like there's such a shift in his character at that point, and I live.
Yes, there's there's another one. Hitotsuki has attacked Miho. How dareth thou? You have harmed my woman, my sacred woman, my goddess. You must die. So instead of letting Don Momotaro use his non-lethal finisher that kills the Hitotsuki, saves the human, he pushes Don Momotaro out of the way.
And lets
Sonoi finish him off, which kills the human and the Hitotsuki.
Which is weird. So this guy ends up coming back at the end of the show. He's one of the people after they end up releasing everybody.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably really a weird.
But also the ninja guy comes back after they kill him in like episode like 20.
Yeah.
After he comes back, he's like, I'm Magician Man now, and then he dies.
Oh no, because Sonoi was partially Don Momotaro at that point, so it didn't work.
Oh.
Yeah.
I missed that.
That's how
I just thought it was a plot hole.
No, that was they brought him back specifically because of that. We'll talk about him.
They bring him back 4 times.
I love him. I love him so much. He keeps showing up
He keeps showing up, much to the disappointment of his mother.
Yes, sadness on her part. But
Or surprise on her part, and one of the funniest moments of the show, when he turns into it's when he turns into the King Hitotsuki in like the second to last episode. They're eating lunch on the bench, and then he like stands up, and his mom just goes.
Well, that's because what?
The three other ones like shoot him with like a beam that like powers him up and amplifies.
Sonoshi, Sonogo, and Sonoroku.
Yeah, those guys.
Yep, the other three Cerebrans, who are not part of the Donbrothers.
Who are not part of the Donbrothers and also barely in the show.
Well, the other two are, but I still love them. I think they're great in like their weird way. But Inuzuka and Kiji's stories are tied so much together.
Get back on track.
Yeah. And I love the fact that they do not find out who Inuzuka is, Inu brother, until much later.
Not until episode 44, I think.
And it's like the funniest thing. Because it's so nonchalant.
They don't transform as a group until episode like 44, and we don't get a roll call transformation until the last episode.
I loved it.
Yeah, me too. It was like in Garo VR where no one henshined until the final episode.
Yeah.
But you know what? I didn't miss it.
Me either.
I never missed it. It's like, hey, what if we took all those times where it's like we watch a transformation sequence, we listen to the roll call. What if we took all that repetition and just instead filled it with character moments?
Yeah.
This whole show is, but what if? What if instead of having, we open the show, everything's hunky-dory, one of the Rangers is walking along and all of a sudden a monster shows up, and then meanwhile at the headquarters of the Legion of Doom, we cut back there and then, I shall send this monster and it will ruin everyone's picnics.
This show has no true villain.
No, it doesn't.
And I love that.
There isn't really, there are definitely rivals, there are antagonists, but there's no villain organization. There's no crime. There's no galactic empire. There's nothing like that.
You sort of have the Cerebrans, like their bosses, is really just nebulous, and you do see them one time
at the end of the show.
No, you see them at the beginning. After
like unmasked.
No, that's something different. After Sono dies and Taro has to go to the other world, that's to trick him and bring him back. Mm-hmm. You see the Cerebrans bosses there, and Taro's like, try it again. Try it again. It's just like you gonna fuck around and find out. That's what y'all gonna do. But yeah, Inu not getting found out until episode 44, and them all transforming and it being super nonchalant until like the very end of the episode is like Haruka just wakes up and then like wait
a minute, he's Inuzuka is in it, brother. Oh my goodness.
They originally think it's a dog. They think it's somebody else.
Oh my god, the episode where he actually did turn into a dog.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the episode, because he gets adopted by a little girl, and the dog is in the doghouse, comes out, she feeds it some food, he's like, here you go, and she's petting him. And then he turns back into Inuzuka, and just the moment they look at each other, and it's just dead silence, and then he just, as a human, just goes back to eating the dog food, and then it cuts to a wide shot with a lot of negative space, and she just goes back to petting him. It's the funniest thing.
I love it. This show is weird. But I do love the growth by the end of the show, where they end up getting Miho back after they beat the Beastal. Mm-hmm. Or rather, she's taken back into that world, and Miho is freed.
Because she gets injured by Inuzuka using Murasame.
Yeah.
And then she lets...
Because Sononi lied to him.
Yeah, and then she lets the other Beastals kill her, and then we see her... That's such a good shot, where she's like floating down the river in like a reservoir.
And then the moon portal.
And then the moon is reflected in the water, and she just... And like she goes through the portal, and it's like, oh my goodness, that is so good. The design... I need to talk about the design of the Judo Forest. Okay. The way that it's shot... And the use of the origami animals and the music.
It's so weird.
It's like a Yoshi level from hell, and I love it. The way that it's shot and the fact that it's so foggy, there are some shots where like you can't tell which direction is up and which direction is down.
It does remind me a little bit of the Helheim Forest from Gun a little bit, and I sort of love that.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. The way they like diffuse and like distort things as well, because
Yeah.
the Forreston guy did that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff there. Like props to all of them.
And I love the fact that their growth ends with one Inuzuka saving Sononi. By using all of his points to save her.
Just to bring her back to life.
And
after she takes a fatal blow for him.
And becomes a fugitive again.
A fatal blow for him from Kijino.
Yeah. And, him reaching out to Natsumi when they're all sitting there in, like, that cafe outside place.
Because, he warns him, it's like, you can use your points, but misfortune may be coming. That misfortune is you're a fugitive again for reasons.
Yeah.
And he and Natsumi have been reunited, but because of that separation...
And because of Natsumi remembering.
Natsumi remembers the dream. She
Yeah.
remembers everything that the Juto experienced. And when he reaches his hand out, like, come on, we gotta run away, and she doesn't take his hand.
She flinches. It doesn't do it.
And, but then Sononi shows up, and she winds up saving him and running away with him, and...
Blowing up some police cars.
Yeah.
They killed a few people. They got real Bonnie and Clyde.
This show's not afraid to have a body count.
Yeah, they got
humans.
Real Bonnie and Clyde at the end of this.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm happy for them.
Yeah. And then...
I think they're a cute couple, and I'm here for it.
Okay. I'm not going to call her, like, because one of the super misogynists is, like, call her a reward. But the fact that he ends up getting with Natsumi at the end of the show, Kiji does.
Yeah.
After he's, gotten over his attachment issues. I don't know if that was necessarily a good thing, but I can see him not becoming as dependent on her as he previously was.
Because he gets very... I would call it abusive.
Yeah.
The way he gets towards her at the end. Not physically, but it's like, no. You stay in the house. You do not leave. You do not go to work. You must... It's like, I want you to depend on me. And it's almost like...
And then there's like...
I want to say it's like Munchausen syndrome, where like you have to... Where it's like you're dependent... It's like you need to be reliable or useful to somebody.
Yeah. And... after that break, when he loses Mia over like those 5 episodes or so, he had to get over himself. Mm-hmm. And basically everybody else forced him to get over himself.
And, I mean, like, the real kicker was when he straight up is going to murder Inuzuka.
Yeah.
Where they're having that fight, and he pulls his gun out and is just ready to execute him, and then Sononi jumps in, takes the blow for him, and then that's kind of when he realizes, like, I've gone too far.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm gonna move out of my apartment, I'm gonna go somewhere else, I'm gonna try for a fresh start, and then when Natsumi shows up at the end and says something along the lines of like, would you like to continue our dream together? And he drops the...
he drops like whatever was it, and it sounded expensive.
It was glass. You hear glass breaking, and it had their wedding photos in it.
Yeah.
So it was probably like frames and stuff that were breaking. But then he goes back and like walks to her, and I think because she most likely, because like she remembers the bad times as well.
Yeah. So
it is a chance for both of them to start fresh.
And I love the fact that since Inuzuka is with Sononi at this point, it's, it felt good that they broke up, weirdly enough, because they're not in the same place anymore.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to live on the run, and I don't blame her.
Yeah, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. So, and Sononi, because like Sononi was the one who came to, our world because she wanted to learn about love. Yeah. And her spending time with Tsubasa, Inuzuka, the way... his attachments to Natsumi and learning about that through that, and then discovering her own love for him through that, I think was really well done.
Let's talk about Sonoza really quick. Actually, if we want to keep talking about Sononi, I think we can. I really want to talk about...
Do we want to transition into her?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is sort of a good point. We probably should have done the same thing with Sonoza and Oni's sister, but I think this is fine. I just really want to talk about Momotaro and Sononi last.
That's fine.
But yeah, Sononi... I really liked her story over the course of the show. She felt a little bit aimless at the beginning until she met Inuzuka. Mm-hmm. And that's when, she became really fixated on him and over time fell in love with him. There's this one hilarious moment after the Cerebrans and Donbrothers like combined into one team where they're all just standing in a circle. And like they were all just talking, and like they get to Sonoi, And he was saying something, and Inuzuka's on the other side.
They're counting off.
Yeah.
Because Don Momotaro, he wanted them to get together to train.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, everyone count off. And then, it's like, well, and then they get to Sonoi, and he's about to say his number, and he says it, and then, like, Sononi, like, walks in front of him, and he's like, no. And just moves her back.
Because he wanted to be beside Inuzuka. And it was the funny, I think this is the thing where it really helped that they're as tall as they are.
Yeah.
Because she's sort of, like, really on the bottom of the screen because she's so short.
Yeah.
And she's just moving. And
yes, Sonoi is very tall, and she's, like, her head is, like, up to, like, where his, like, midsection is, and he's just like, no. What are you doing?
It was so subtle, and I died. It was so funny. But I loved her relationship of getting there. It felt a little bit codependent-ish for a while until she ends up meeting the Master. So she meets Kaito.
Master.
Yeah, the true hero.
The true hero. Is he not the real true hero of this show?
Man's great.
He's great. He has... You want to order something, he'll have it ready to go.
But I love Sononi. I just love this entire cast, to be quite honest.
Yeah, same.
So, I'm so sad going into King Oja because I'm just like, they're not here anymore.
It's like, I don't want King Oja, I just want Donbrothers 2.
Yeah, I want
Donbrothers 2.
But yeah, I loved just her relationship with Inuzuka the further the show went along. Because you see her fall in love with him, what she'll do for him.
Little internal monologues that she has.
And him saving her and going back to being a fugitive just so she doesn't die. And they do end up having some strike out.
The episode where he gets blinded and she has to pretend to be Natsume to lead him to safety.
And then she straight up lies to him several times, by the way.
Yeah.
But with the whole, if you use Murasame to beat the Jutsu, you can release the person, when in reality, you'll just kill that person. And like you said, the whole blinding episode with Murasame, following them and stalking them throughout that entire episode, which is great. That whole rain scene.
Nemesis.
That whole rain scene with his bike. Oh, that was great. But yeah, I still really ended up liking their relationship by the end of the show because it felt a little bit more deserved and natural. Let's talk about Sonoza. Mr. High Cheekbones himself.
You know what his face reminds me of? Anya Taylor-Joy.
I was honestly going to end up saying Michael Jackson post-bad. Okay. Like around Remember the Time there?
Yeah. Very different directions you and I took. But I was thinking Anya Taylor-Joy. It's like the same kind of eyes, same, bone structure.
Yeah.
Same hair in some cases, but, great actor. I think he was, like all of them, perfectly cast.
He was so weird.
Perfectly weird. For what this character is, he's great.
Very weird.
Yes.
And I love the weirdness of him. Him, like I said, wanting to get emotions at the beginning of the show to getting Haruka's manga and then becoming her editor-in-chief. Yeah. And their relationship as it goes forward. I think this is the thing that helped the characters grow the most was just each other.
Oh, yeah.
And yes. That is how this show is. But Sono's is just hilarious. He overreacts to so much, and it is so good.
Yeah.
Binding Murasame.
Oh my god! I have to talk about a moment with him. It's the episode where they have like their peace summit in the cafe, where they're all talking about trying to join each other. There was a moment this great moment where he and Haruka's actor play off each other, where Haruka has a reaction to something and like dramatically like flumps over onto the table, and Sonoza like leans in and is like, yes, that's a reaction. Ooh, I see an emotion here.
You can do that.
And just like that, and it's like it's not like a big reaction. It's kind of like a subtle lean in, and like you see his eyes widen, and he's like, oh yes, and it's so great.
It's the editor-in-chief in him. I loved it. Their relationship was so good.
Yes.
And it was so pure.
Yes, it was, and I like that. And
I think the other thing that made me like Sonoza so much is when he got Don Murasame, he wrapped Don Murasame in Haruka's
in the manga as a seal
to get him to learn how people work. And I love the thought of that. Because Don Murasame, he has this whole thing with Mother, who might end up being just another personality.
Who knows who Mother is? They never explain.
Yeah, who might just end up being another personality of his, telling him what to do. But after a little bit, he learns, we don't get as much with Murasame, but I think we get enough. And that's odd for me to say. But
considering he spends most of the show as a disembodied sword, who can gain, a human form, the voice of a child,
and his
very young sounding voice.
It works.
I think it works
with Jiro as well for that one episode where they were together.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so good. Murasame getting to learn what it is just to be an entity, I should say, was great.
Because he brings back, doesn't he bring back Sonoi's body?
Yes.
And to the Cerebrins, and they're like, you may have a reward, and he chooses his freedom.
Yeah.
But he will still serve them.
Yeah.
Which is interesting choice there, but it eventually because eventually he changes from that, and by the end of it, he's fighting alongside the Donbrothers against the two bosses
against
those dudes.
Yes, against Sonona and Sonoya, played by, of course. Well, we know who he is.
Kohei Murakami.
Yes.
Tell me, because the
Kaixa.
Oh, Ninja Black.
No, Kaixa.
Oh, Kaixa. Sorry, let's say Kaixa
from Fies.
Oh, okay.
Who will always show up in Inue's anything because they're really good friends. So
sure.
Something. And Miss Yellow Racer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was Yellow Racer.
Okay.
Believe she still has cancer, but I think it's on remission.
Oh, that's
right
great.
Now.
That's great.
So she came back in this, and I'm seeing like that's amazing.
Yes.
I hope it's completely gone soon. But yeah, I really like Murasame's growth, especially in the way we'll talk about Jiro here. We're going to go really out of order.
It's fine by me.
In the way that it helped Jiro in that moment, because for the little bit of time they have, it's just like it's them really just learning from each other and learning. Murasame learning what it is to be free, and Jiro learning just how to move forward a little bit.
How to move forward and cope with certain things that are revealed, and
later on in the show,
two personalities.
Oh boy,
Jiro was a character. Do we want to move on to Jiro now?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jiro was a character that worried me at first. Because when he comes into the show, I felt like the quality kind of slipped. And it's like, he kind of scares me. Because he comes, it's like, small, guy from a small town in the country with delusions of grandeur.
Because he is another one of the Dawn clan.
But that doesn't get revealed until later.
No, he knows.
He does?
Yeah, he knows immediately.
Oh.
That's why he had that whole thing with Damotaro when they first meet.
Oh. But either way, it's like, kid from the country with delusions of grandeur suddenly getting superpowers just kind of freaks me out. It's like, what if suddenly those power fantasies are able to come true for someone who's had them for so long?
Yeah.
But, did you like how they handled the split personality stuff?
Yes, actually.
You did? Okay.
I really like Don Torobolt as a character on his own.
I'll say this.
Dangerous.
You could have made his henshin sound a little more obnoxious. Could have made it a little more obnoxious. It's not obnoxious enough. It's one of the worst henshin sounds
Weirdly
ever.
enough,
I hate it.
I think
that's one of the only things I will give a ding to on the show is I hate that henshin sound.
Weirdly enough, I think it works because of his personality. Because if you notice when he changes to Torobolt, it's a little bit deeper. Because of the way that Tora works.
Yeah.
But I think it worked in the show because of Jiro himself being so excitable,
always wanting to help, always wanting to join in, always wanting to take charge.
Be the leader. And it backfires on him.
And it backfires.
Not like him.
No, they don't.
They don't like him until the end of the show. And I'm like, I understand why.
But, yeah, found in a bamboo basket, rescued by a local constable, and raised in
That, just looking at that, in retrospect, the hell. His story is so sad and messed up.
Yeah, because it turns out that moment where his dad tells him, we're the only two people that live in this village. Your girlfriend, your friends, everyone you've ever met and known, all of those bonds, fake. None of those people existed.
The person who raised him was the Penguin Junto, who was the protector of the
forest.
Yes. And basically he raised him and I guess did something.
To take his place.
Yeah, he raised him to take his place and did something so he ends up seeing all these people around him. And
because he wanted him to have like a real child.
Yeah. So. If you go back and watch the episode where he's sick and the girl comes to the city, no one interacts with her.
Oh, wow. But the moment where he's like scrolling through his phone, he's like, oh, want to see pictures of Rumi-chan? And he holds up the phone and it's just him in the picture.
He shows it to Inuzuka and Inuzuka's like...
And Inuzuka's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll take a look. Oh. He looks back at him, looks back at the phone. It's like, it's nice. Okay.
There's something wrong with
There is something wrong with this man.
And Inuzuka's just like, oh no. I have to deal with Kiji and this. Oh, it's so good. That revelation moment where he finds out all these people are fake. And he's like closes his eyes. Rumi says she wants to feed him something and it ends up being the penguin origami to put into his mouth. Yeah. And then Momotaro comes in and is like, no, I'll do it. I'll take your place.
He takes the place, and because of that, because he's done Momotaro, he's able to possess the Juto.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Learn the location, so on and so forth.
But yeah, Jiro's character, I felt like Inoue sometimes did not want to deal with him.
Which I don't blame him.
I honestly think is hilarious.
I feel like there's a lot of things he didn't want to deal with while writing this.
He didn't want to deal with
fights don't want to deal with him.
Toys didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, screw him.
Like, you get a couple moments at the beginning. I think the last thing they did was transform into the Die Rangers, and that was the last time you saw them do that. Do the Avatar change.
I think there's a couple moments after it, but like, it's so inconsequential.
Yeah. Although it did end up leading to a very, very cool fight scene early between Momotaro and Sonoe, where he does like the rapid transformation. And then the next episode, that's when we get the Robotaro forms. We haven't talked about the next one. We'll do that. We'll do all that normal stuff at the end.
Yes.
This is a very different
boring
show.
Stuff.
This is a very different phrase show here. And I really live for it.
Shall we move on to...
I will say, though, I love the fact that Jiro had to get over himself. And, like, when he's just basically sidelined for an entire episode because he found out his entire life was a lie. Yeah. I don't blame him. And he ends up having to combine with Dangerous Jiro.
Yeah, the tiger and the dragon, they combine into one being. They put on the Batory earrings. Yeah. And
he gets a new haircut.
He gets another new haircut.
Yes.
It's kind of like a combination of both hairstyles.
Yeah, where it's very slick back.
Very slick back, but also like poofy.
And also get some arm braces and stuff now. Yep. I love that moment where it's them finally having a conversation. Because previously, when Dangerous Jiro came out, he like stole all their sunglasses and was able to turn into the other Donbrothers to fight Momotaro. And just the attacking the entire team and to see where he ends up, where he's a lot calmer and, you know, Fuse personality now. It's just like, he's strong now. He's a very strong boy.
That he is.
Let's talk about Taro and Sonoe.
Okay. I think this show is the best example of the overpowered red.
Yes, because the show just refuses to focus on him.
He doesn't focus on him, but also, he's kind of unlikable.
That's the main thing.
He's not this exalted hero on a pedestal who everyone loves and everyone is aspiring to be.
He's just so strong.
Everyone is just dropping at the ground. Oh, you're so cool. He's so awesome. And neither the characters nor the writer is putting him on a pedestal of any kind. This guy's a dick.
Because he can't
Taro is a dick.
He can't lie.
He can't lie.
And he's very blunt.
Yes.
He learns to be better by the end of the show. But man, at the beginning of the show where he wants to create bonds with people, we end up getting flashbacks of his childhood with his dad, who was locked up because he was locked up for the crime of raising Taro. Yeah.
Because to get into a little bit of, because we have the Cerebrin world, which is like overlaid with our world. And the Cerebrin world is like charged by human emotions. Yeah. That's what they live on. When someone's desire gets too strong, they turn into a Hitotsuki, and that disrupts the flow of energy coming to Cerebrin world, so the Cerebrins have to kill him.
Yeah.
Or in the case of the Donbrothers, kill the Hitotsuki but save the human.
Yeah. For a lot of the time, Taro, like, the team just doesn't like him.
No, they don't.
And it's really...
No, they do not.
You can tell how exacerbated it gets in the future Haruka.
Whose first reaction is punching him in the face.
Yeah. Like, something must have happened in that world where Momotaro did not grow in the way that he did in the regular timeline.
Who knows?
Because Haruka ends up getting the Pelican Phoenix in that one.
Yep.
And instead of Momotaro...
Both Saru and Oni are able to get like powered up forms.
I don't think Saru was.
I think he did.
No, it was just Oni.
It was just her?
Yeah, because they can all, for actually a good amount of time, when they transfer to the Robotaro, they're on the ground fighting.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It's not just big.
There's not a lot of that in this show.
Yeah. Or if it is, he'll put it in for like a minute. If that. 30 seconds. We don't care about toys. But yeah, Momotaro himself, seeing him as a kid, and having
that episode where people are picketing outside of his house
because this kid just is always correct.
I'm like, what is wrong with all of you, and how much free time do you have that you have to protest outside of a child's apartment? What's wrong with all of you?
Fuck that kid. Hate him.
He told me the way I was hanging my laundry was wrong, and he was right. Get him out of here.
It wouldn't be so bad if he was, occasionally helping, but he does it all the time.
Yep.
And he's so condescending.
Yes.
But then it's like, because of that, the only friend that he ever actually had was a beetle.
Yeah.
And...
Well, what was the beetle's name? Guy?
I think so.
A big little rhinoceros beetle.
Precursor for the next season. And his birthday where nobody showed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, there's moments of sadness that come from him the more that you end up going along, and it's more because of what other people end up telling Haruka and the others about him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just him having flashback, except for the beetle. That was his. They use that against him, like, oh, this is messed up.
Because they have a contest going of who can land a hit on him, and every time they miss, he makes them do like some sort of exercise in a restaurant. Kichino has to do like 100 chair steps, and the waiter comes out and he's like, "Sir, please, not in our chairs."
I loved it. I love that episode. They realized at the end, it's just like, all right, we might have gone a little bit too far doing this.
Yeah.
This is a little messed up. That was our bad.
Mm-hmm.
But Momotaro as a character is so interesting to watch. Like you said, he's exceedingly overpowered, and this is definitely showed when they ended up fighting the Hitotsuki the last time. And the very last episode.
I mean, every episode.
But
more or less.
Yeah. But he's also just so enjoyable to watch because of other people's reactions to him as a character.
Mm-hmm.
And him building those relationships with these people. He says he creates a bond, but he doesn't really know what that means half of the time. So it's something that they actually have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, I delivered this package to you, we created a bond.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, this is something that we have to work towards. And you see that more than anybody else when he ends up meeting somebody that he doesn't know or has no actual power over in the form of Sonoi.
Might be one of the best foils in Sentai.
Yeah. Yeah.
This relationship, this rivalry.
This is... and the way that it is done, it comes off as really romantic. And I think that's something that people really latched on with this show.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Fandoms will do that.
I don't even think it's
I'm guilty of that.
The fandom. I think it's honestly the fact that Inoue, the way that he writes some characters, like, he'll occasionally write a gay character into his show and just do it. He did it in the Ryuki special from
Rider Time.
Yeah, Rider Time Ryuki.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it here where it has subtext. Because he doesn't see an issue with putting a queer character into a show. And there's a lot of subtext in their relationship here and how he wrote their relationship where you can see how people got to that.
Yeah.
I love their relationship. And the song they have, which is a romantic one in theming.
Interesting.
Only the Moon Knows, which is both a double entendre with the Jutsu Forest thing and just Japanese mythology. With
Tsukiyomi?
With Tsukiyomi and the Moon Goddess. Sonoi as a character for Taro is so...
Sonoi's a Cerebrin thing was he came here to learn about art.
Yes. And I love watching their relationship grow.
So did I.
When they get the people out of the burning building and then they find out who the other one is. Like that whole episode where everybody's here and they all end up having that gigantic fight in that quarry. We're like, damn, the other Donbrothers, the Juto, the Cerebrins, Totsuki, because the ninja guy shows up again.
Yeah, he shows up as a magician this time.
He shows up as the Magic Ranger one.
Yep.
And and then like when everybody shows up and they leave. And they just go like sit on a roof and just like have a conversation.
That's one of the things I love about this show. It's having a meaningful conversation between two characters, being used to develop them, or have some sort of fun moment or cool moment with them. It's great.
And then, there's that parallel between the time they killed each other.
Yep. Twice in Sonoi's case.
Yeah.
Because he kills him twice. Or at least seriously injures him the first time. Because after he comes out of a certain form, he finds out that's a period where he's vulnerable, and he asks him that because he knows Momotaro can't tell a lie.
Yeah.
And he takes advantage of that, but then he realizes, I've made a mistake, I shouldn't have done that. That was underhanded of me. I want to fight you on even ground.
And that ends up leading to the giant everybody's here Smash Bros. Tournament.
It does.
I love them. And I think that there was so much happening in this show. Characters you had to follow: Sonoza and Haruka, Sonoi and Inu and Kiji, and then Jiro, and pretty much in his own thing. But Taro and Sonoi were the things that I honestly ended up paying attention to the most. Not just because of the game, but because of the fact their relationship felt natural.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was them getting to know each other.
I mean, the moment in the last episode
when
they're having Oden together.
Oh, and Taro's memories are going.
Taro's memories are being reset. Did they ever explain why they were being reset?
I think it's because we're getting to the end of this particular round of, I'm not going to call it the game, but everything that was going on.
This round of the Donbrothers.
Yeah.
And so his memories are being reset. And so they all invite him for Oden, and he's like, someone will say something to him, and Sonoi will whisper, like, that's Haruka, she draws manga.
Before we get there, I think this is sort of the point where Sonoi is the last person that Taro remembers. As he's losing his memories. Yeah. And he's the last person that he forgets.
The last person he forgets.
And the look on Sonoi's face.
It's heartbreaking. It really is.
Yeah.
Because that whole time, it's like, oh, that's Haruka, she draws manga. That's Sarahara, he likes haikus.
That's Kiji, he has issues.
And that's something like that. And he's about to say something else, and then before he can tell him, Taro goes, who are you?
Yeah.
And just the look on his face of just like that crestfallen heartbrokenness of like,
and Sonoi's like, even me.
The person it's like the person I love most has forgotten who I am.
I remember watching this live with everybody on the overtime server.
Yeah.
And we were just all freaking out, like,
Now kiss him
much.
and bring him back.
Yeah.
Cool.
This Cinderella moment, do it.
And yeah, but great moments. Sonoi also like very, very great performance, just great character, extremely funny when he needs to be. That moment where he tries the Oden with the eggs that he got from the mountain egg farmer.
Yeah.
And he tries the Oden, and he just like disappears, and the Oden farmer guy's like, what? And he's in the freaking he's in their like headquarters in Cerebrin World, just like bounding around, and he's like glowing. And then Sonoza and Sononi are like, where's Sonoi anywhere?
What is
where is he anyway? And then they're like, ah! And they look over and they see him. That's great.
Oh God, I felt so many emotions when this show ended because I didn't want it to. I legitimately did not want the show to end.
I didn't want the show to end. It's like this one. I want Donbrothers too.
Yeah, I want
a sequel series.
It's just fantastic. All right, let's talk about some of the things that we sort of skipped over.
Do let's.
The suits as a whole. I mean, we talked about them when we first saw it.
Yeah. But let's do it again.
Yeah. Especially because now we have 10 members on this team.
Mm-hmm.
There are 10 members of the Donbrothers.
Is that more than Q-Ranger? Or?
Q-Ranger had 12.
12 okay.
It's the same as Q-Ranger.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, I wish Euros wasn't gold. But I think with all the accent colors, it works. Still don't like the 2 CGIs. I'm so happy they're not doing that again this year. But I think everybody looks good. I think the
I was okay with the CG. It didn't look the best. Sure.
No, it had some issues.
Because, I mean, it's a Japanese TV show. It's not going to have the same budget as something like Endgame, but for the show, I think it worked.
Yeah.
For the context of this show, I think doing them that way works.
The transformed Cerebrin forms. Not the biggest fan of brown as a color.
Yeah.
But I still think they all look good, especially with them being based on previous Toei Sentai Toei heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Toei Tokusatsu heroes. And then Dom Murasame joining in at the end, which is just purple.
Mm-hmm.
In a slightly bigger visor. That's red.
Mm-hmm. With a shark motif.
I think for all the weirdness that the show seems like it should not work, it meshes so well. Even with all the suits and everything. I think it still meshes incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. I love that, like, Saru Brother has, like, the big Cookie Monster arms. I love his big red butt. I thought that was a cute touch.
And the only other thing I really want to talk about is just Oni Taijin.
The mechs?
Yeah. Love it. I think it's so good.
I love that they themselves are the mech parts.
And they'll just talk throughout the entire mech fight. And it's so funny.
I love Kijino being like, wait, I'm just the shoulders? Like the first time they transform.
And then when the Palanquin gets put, it's like, I can't see. I cannot.
The way that it's used, the fact that in the first, like, 15 episodes or something like that, there's barely any there's, like, no mech fights.
It's just Don Zenkaio.
Yeah.
And I still don't like it. But... And I feel like they gave, because of the fact that it is just them, there's still a lot of personality in these mech fights.
There's personality because they're the ones talking. They're not very long. The environment, they're also all CG sometimes.
Rather, the environments are.
The environments are, but also they are.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. Because, I mean, you can tell. I mean, you look at it and it's like, ooh, that's a PS1 cutscene.
I still think one of the
Again, Japanese TV show, my standards are not but so high.
I still love Toradora Gonjin's first fight, where they had, like, the whole table. It felt very Chinese. Like, Chinese, like, wuxia films, and him fighting on the table and doing all the flips and stabbing through the monster. I just thought it was cool. It was a cool time. And I love the fact that we don't see the mech fights that often.
They're not here that often because instead of, what if we just didn't do that? What if instead of sticking to the same formula we've done for the past 100 years or however long it's been, feels like
45 years.
Feels like 100 years, much as we watch it. But, you know, what if we just stuck to character moments? What if we built meaningful conversations and bonds and we didn't do the things that are annoying, or we didn't do it because we felt like we were obligated to because of the genre?
Do the standard. We didn't do action 1, action 2.
Robot.
Yeah. And God, I think this show is standing out all the more for it. It just did not feel like any other Sentai that we watched. And Lord knows I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, same.
It was such a breath of fresh air.
It was it's one of those beautiful shows that we watch where it's like, I think I just might watch 6 episodes today. You know, and I'm gonna look forward to each and every one of them, and then I'll get through the 6 and go, yeah, I'll watch one more. Sure, why not?
I
want to see where this goes.
It was so torturous watching this show on a week-to-week basis. I will tell you that, because every single time the episode ended, I'm just like, man, I want more of this. And I haven't felt that way with, like, any Toku that we watched in such a long time.
Yeah.
But man, this felt needed.
We need to talk about Zenkai Black.
Oh, Mr. Kaito himself.
We need to talk more about him and
how cool he was.
Just his actor has amazing range.
Yeah.
Coming from Zenkaiger, where he was, the upbeat action hero shonen man, and then in this one where he is just the coolest cat in the room, and
he has a book, he's on magazines.
He's on magazines, he's got his own fashion books. His restaurant has anything you could order except for rosehip tea. It's not on the menu. That's the one thing they don't carry.
There's one thing I want to mention that was sort of really subtle that I sort of forgot to mention when we were talking about Taro. When his dad comes out of the cell, and they're doing the whole thing to bring the teams together.
Yeah, one of my favorite episodes.
There's this moment where Taro, he's a little bit of an ass, but he serves his dad first before anything else. Mm-hmm. And I love because they don't draw attention to it. It's just a thing that happens, but it's so subtle, and I love that.
Call back to the Onigiri store episode where, I've been serving my whole life. You've been served your whole life. That's why your Onigiri is not at 100 points.
It's also just, I guess for him, it's really just a sign of respect. This is the man that raised me.
Yeah.
And you don't see him do that with anybody else. I think the closest that you really ever see him get like that with somebody is Sonoe.
Yeah. But the moment in that episode where he's going around and just taking everyone's order. I just love that. I replayed that scene like twice just because I loved just seeing everyone order their favorite, food and drink of choice for Haruka. It's like a chocolate parfait, roasted green tea, cappuccino, kibidango for Momotaro. And it's just like such a great little scene where he knows what their order is, he's got it ready to go.
I still love some of the BS that whole episode gave us.
Yes.
With them voting to keep tying to see if they got on there. And Charles being like, my vote counts for 100. Everybody's like, no.
No, it doesn't.
And then,
the other three show up.
Sonogoroku comes in, and they cast their votes to get them to join the Donbrothers so they can beat them.
Yep.
This show is fantastic.
It's very, very good. Yes.
God, I miss it already. And I really cannot wait until Zenkai Donbros. If only so we can get some recollection on Kaito. Because apparently, from what was said about that when they released the trailer and everything, it's supposed to be formatted like the older Rider versus movies.
Okay, so episode of that, last 20 minutes we team up.
And takes place after both shows.
Interesting.
So I'm really wondering what's going to happen with Kaito.
Because the end of Zenkaiger is we go through a portal.
Yeah.
End of Donbrothers is everyone's off doing their own thing now. Haruka's got her manga, and Inuzuka and Sononi are on the run. Fugitives in Love on the run. Saraharu's still doing his haikus. Miho and Kijino are giving life a second chance together.
I think the only one we don't see is Sonoe.
No, did we see him at the Odin stand?
I think we see him at the Odin stand, but I don't think he's running it or anything.
No, he's not running it, but he's there. I think. I don't remember.
That was his and Turtle's date spot.
Yeah, that was their date spot.
That was legitimate.
They were just on a roof somewhere, just dangle our feet off.
Also, the guy who played the Odin stand owner.
The Odin stand guy, yeah.
Is from Bokenger. He played the ice guy.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
You really can hear when you pay attention to his voice. Because that voice is very distinct.
But it's also, it's a character voice that he's putting on, because he also voices, the Hitotsuki that he plays later, and then it's oh my god, I hate you, why are you complaining about my food?
It's just the same voice pattern as his character from Bokenger, so I thought that was fun.
Interesting.
It's been, oh good lord, it's been 15, 16 years between shows.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else about Donbrothers we would like to say?
I love the fact that, once again, there's no ending dance. And I actually really like the song they go out on in each episode.
So let's get the party started. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I like that one too.
That song is great. This show was amazing. And I'm so unbelievably unhappy that it's
That's the mark of a good show.
Yeah, it's just like,
It's like, what was your least favorite part about that movie? The credits. I didn't want it to end.
This show's great. I really hope that the Versus does end up tying up some loose ends. Especially because I think that'll just be released either straight to the Toei Tokusatsu fan club, just like Ryotama Ryuki was.
Yeah.
Or Blu-ray and DVD. So I feel like there are looser restrictions on that. And I want to see what Taro and Sonori are going to get up to. Nothing dirty. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do the Adana specials, which are very lesbian. But I feel like, seeing them together is going to be different when you don't have the restrictions of being on kids' television.
Gas pulled hands. Portrayed.
Oh my good
Portrayed.
lord. Oh my lord. I can't handle the escandalo of it all. But yeah. I'm sad.
The more we've talked about it,
The more I'm gonna rewatch.
I think this might be in the top 3.
The show is just...
It might take the number 2 spot. It's probably going to be like Kira Major, this, and then Go Kaiju.
I think it honestly might be
my favorites.
For me, 1-1 Deca Donbrothers director. Actually, I don't think I'll move Diamond down. Live Man. If only because Diamond fumbled the ending.
Live Man's great.
But yeah.
Yeah, this show rules. Watch it. It's my highest recommendation.
After the past, I wasn't the biggest fan of Kira Major, but I know people were.
Lord knows I was.
After the past 3 years of just banger after banger after banger, I'm so worried what the King Ojo will do. But at the same time, it doesn't like anybody likes anybody in that show from the trailers. They do not like each other from it seems. But yeah, let us know what you think about Donbrothers in the comments below. Next time on episode 149, join us for Cho Shinsei Madouder.
Yep, going back to the past, taking on some Metal Heroes again.
Yeah, and then after that, we'll do for 150, we will do Ultraman Decker.
Ultraman Decker.
But yeah, don't forget to join us on all the things. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching.